We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. This week's episode is sponsored by CityVest. CityVest has quickly become the most popular and best way for doctors to invest in top-performing real estate private equity funds that are usually reserved for institutional investors. This unique access to investing in these institutional funds is available for the first time ever through CityVest's easy and secure online investment platform. CityVest does the hard work of conducting due diligence and vetting the investments. They even get a third-party due diligence report that is posted on their website. As a result of aggregating a several million-dollar investment amount into their access funds, CityVest gains access to investing in the institutional investment and is able to negotiate better investment terms such as a 12% preferred return. You can check them out at cityvest.com or go to the link in the show notes below. Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I talk about 4 different types of freedom: time, financial, location, emotional freedom. And the podcast started out during the pandemic as a group of physician guests and audience. And now the brand has grown so much that it's time to expand and help the rest of the world. So in that light, I bring on entrepreneurs, investors, business owners, public speakers, coaches to let you know the cutting edge types of things that are being done on the fringe, and hopefully both sides can benefit. So today I'm pleased to introduce Andrea Lucach from Austria. And what's interesting is she does psychological counseling, coaching, and she's also an NLP trainer. So we'll learn all about the way you use your language, your thoughts and emotions to create and impact change. So Andrea, welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on to the podcast. I know we had some scheduling issues and, we met through Podmatch, but what's really interesting is, the work that you do, especially in the European region, and you're using NLP and coaching. Coaching is a really big industry here in the States. And so just tell us how you got started and we can go from there.
Yes, as I had as I entered the business world after studying economics, I realized that not everybody is happy. So nor did I. And I had to change something about it. And so it brought me to the coaching industry. And after I felt very overwhelmed and almost broke out, I created a system to help people to come into their power and live life fullest.
I like that. I think that really the personal development, the coaching industry has really blossomed during these times, especially with the impact of COVID on mental health and just people looking for more than just the traditional means of fulfillment. So that's, it's great to see people from all walks of life taking charge of their lives. And so it looks like what's interesting is that you do, what's particularly interesting is the idea of boundaries, because, growing up, I was a people pleaser, didn't know how to say no, didn't learn till later in life how to set healthy boundaries. And so I think that hurt me a lot in my earlier years. So tell us, healthy boundaries, know and set your own and accept others. Tell us more about that.
Yes, it was the same with me. So I haven't learned it as well in my young years, and I had to learn it. But it's a matter of respect. We are respecting other people's boundaries, and why not demanding it for ourselves as well? because we can just give to the world as much as we have by our own. And if we feel exhausted or judge ourselves, which takes a lot of energy from us, so why should we not be in our power?
Interesting. Very interesting. And when you say what's interesting is how does, I guess the first step is what is the first step in how to set healthy boundaries?
So to be clear about their own wants and needs. So if I don't know where I want to go, so I cannot change anything. And if I'm not aware of it, there will not be a change. So I will be driven by life like a ping pong ball.
Oh, that's quite interesting. So if you're not clear and you don't really know yourself, values, and basically you're just reacting to one stimulus after another, yeah, that's quite and how can we bring more clarity into a situation?
So to bring clarity into a situation is to become aware of what really is. Often we tend to label or to interpret things. So, and by doing so, we step one step backwards while being our best observer, to have a look on what really happened, what really was in here in that situation, to become clear about what our thoughts were at that moment and how we felt, because our body, our mind, and our emotions are connected.
Doc to Doc is a personal lending solution designed by doctors for doctors. We understand that doctors' financial situations change faster than an insulin drip in ketoacidosis. And we also understand that doctors are the most reliable borrowers in the world. Through our proprietary algorithm, we're able to provide personal loans at great rates with amazing flexibility, because we take into account your schooling, your specialty, and where you are in the medical journey. Doctors come to us after they've matched into residency, and we loan for all sorts of personal reasons, from credit card debt consolidation to family expenses and medical bills. We speak with everyone who applies for a loan and offer fixed interest rates and flexible term options without prepayment penalties. If you're a physician looking for a personal loan, fill out our application form now. It only takes 3 minutes, and we'll get back to you with a decision within 24 hours.
When you say knowing yourself, what do you mean by that? Expand upon that.
To know how I'm acting and thinking in certain situations. Oftentimes we are not even aware, because we keep the habit going, as we are creatures of habit, but to stop it, we have to become aware of our habits as well.
And then what's interesting is when you talk about habits, there's patterns of success, there's patterns of failure, there's patterns of dysfunction, and habits are really key and really becoming aware of that. How do you as a coach and trainer, how do you become aware of what is outside of our conditioned mind?
Yes, it's by asking a lot of questions, to ask where a behavior is appropriate and where it isn't, and why it came to it, because it was maybe something we heard when we are children and don't even remember it, because we were conditioned by our environment, teachers.
And then how does NLP training factor into empowering yourself and into personal power and personal transformation?
Yes, to understand that it was designed in the past, it can be lived in the now. And when fear or overthinking comes, it just shows that we are with our thinking in the future and not in the present. And by observing our wording we use, we can even realize either our focus is in the past, in the present, or in the future.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that you talk about your past does not determine your future. What do you mean by that?
So whatever happened in the past, in our childhood, it has no control over our future if we don't allow it. So if we realize such a pattern and we understand that it maybe was said to us from a teacher, let's say, and we are hearing these words in our mind still when we are performing some thoughts or things, and to give the thought back and stop it and to create a new one, which is more suitable for our goal.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And then the other thing is I want to talk about especially self-care in today's world, because I think mental health is really coming to the forefront. So much issues with anxiety, depression, burnout, suicide, just so much fear, uncertainty in the world. What is your recommendation for navigating just mentally and emotionally these uncertain times?
Mm-hmm. To understand that, let's say, depression is mostly because we are focused on our past. And if we fear or are overwhelmed, it's almost because our focus is in future. And so to bring it back, if we want to have a look on fear, so we can have a future pace and see how we could act in a future situation, and by bringing it down into little steps on how we could act then, and imagining it and maybe visualizing it or feeling it, how we would feel then, our brain cannot distinguish either we are imagining it or living it. And so we will be prepared for the next time. It will not be something new for our brain, because it already had relived it. So it will be something we are doing again and not the first time. And when it comes to depression, to understand that we are in the past, but it does not determine our future. We can understand what happened in the past and what are the thoughts which are hindering us, and to release it and to see how we want it now.
Yeah. What's interesting is, I've heard one of my mentors in a famous quote. I always like to use quotes because it's kind of combines everything, is, life is happening for you and it's not happening to you. So, whatever is, whatever bad events or traumatic events happened in the past, it's not a reflection of you, and it's, was meant to serve you. So if your worst day ever could be the best day ever, because if you learn from it, you glean the lessons and you take it on and move forward. So how do people, a lot of people, especially empaths, people pleasing, people that don't have healthy boundaries, they all are controlled by guilt and shame, really kind of low self-esteem. How do people stop this inner critic?
Yes, to become aware of what was and how they felt, and to have a look on where maybe this sensation was in the body, and then just being their own observer, observing how the body is sitting on a chair or while you're going, how it, what you can feel on sensations in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that you are valuable and you were programmed that way, and you can change it. But you can change it just when you are aware of it. So if you are not aware of it, you will not be able to change it. And to go one step backwards and just to be there best observer. So also people, if they are thinking, they mix it up with I'm feeling, but feelings, knowing what feelings are, we can feel anger, we can feel happiness, we can feel sadness, but we cannot feel, I feel like I cannot do it. So to distinguish that here was a thought process behind and not a real feeling. And by becoming clear, we will gain more, and we will set little goals, and when we achieve one at a time, we can celebrate it. And by celebrating a lot of it, it will become a habit, and our self-esteem will also rise up, because oftentimes we don't even realize or recognize what we already did in the arena of good things already. And it's by becoming aware what we already did to the world, or what we accomplished very good, we can honor ourselves, and the self-worth will go up with it.
Interesting. Yeah, I've I do a lot of, I'm into personal development, and really they say that emotions are just impulses, and emotions are information. So if you can monitor your thoughts and your beliefs and your emotions in real time, on moment to moment basis, you're that much closer to being better, becoming more self-aware and being more empowered in any given situation. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, to bring it into an order, because there is an order to it. There's first a thought, and then an emotion comes. Then we tend to go into action, and after it, a result appears up. So to keep this order in mind as well.
Mm-hmm. How do people, it sounds like we have the, like we were talking about earlier, we are living in very interesting times. We're in the middle of a war, recession, possible depression, gas, inflation, food, we're recovering from a pandemic, like you were talking about, people are quitting their jobs. We can't find people in this traditional service sector. So it's all of these events all at once. So how do you, like, and you turn on the news every day, here in the United States, you hear about mass shootings, almost consistently. So with all this garbage that's going on, how do people empower themselves in these down phases of life?
Yes, to acknowledge what they did good, and if they feel down, they can anchor a past positive situation where they can bring up the resources to follow their dreams and passion in the real life.
Quite interesting. You said something very profound. And then I know we're coming close to the end of our conversation, which was really interesting. And why is it that self-care is so important in these phases of life?
Yes, because it brings us inner self-care, brings us our power back. So if we give a lot and give to have the power to continue, we have to take a break and to fill our batteries. And here's where self-care comes into place, because when we are overthinking and rethinking everything and don't care of ourselves, we get exhausted, and our energy drops down. And to keep it high so we can be productive, we need to step backwards, take some little time for us to either meditate, clear the mind, or to fill it with some fun things which give us pleasure.
Okay, interesting. I know a lot of people listening to the conversation are very interested in visiting your website, talking to you, contacting you. So how can they do that?
So they can contact me best via email, which would be andrealukac.coaching@gmail.com.
Yes, and for all the listeners out there, all of Andrea's resources will be included in the show notes. Any final resources or anything that can help listeners get on their start or on their journey towards self-fulfillment, personal development?
Yes, to become their own best observer. So become your own best observer.
Yeah, you said it so nicely. Self-observation and being mindful in the moment. So thanks so much for coming onto the show, and thanks so much for the wisdom, and we look forward to hearing about your future success.
Yes, welcome, and I hope you enjoyed it.
I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislumdphd.com for more support. I'll see you next week.